Welcome to the IDP Plus Advice Show. Today we're going to be starting a new series, IDP News and IDP Division by Division recommendations. And with that, let's get started. All righty, welcome everyone. I'm your host, Ricky Rodrigue. You can find me at RickyRod66 on X, and I'm joined as always by Sean Teague, who you can find on X at Sean8386. We're thrilled to be starting this new series with you, which is going to be IDP News and IDP Division by Division recommendations. And we have 6 categories for each division we're going to cover, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. This will be a 4-part series. Obviously, there's 8 divisions. We're going to cover 2 each week, along with the key news and notes for IDP specific players and all. So that is the plan. Of course, if you missed our last series of 9 shows related to top 12 and top 24 repeat rates and who we think is going to fall out of the top 24 at each of the 9 positions, offense and IDP, as well as who's going to jump into the top 24. Go back and you could check that out on this IDP Plus YouTube channel or on Spotify as well. So that is the plan that we're going to be doing here. And we're going to jump in right away, and we're going to start off with some key IDP news and notes. And we're going to start in the linebacker category. And we're going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of interest about these Eagles linebackers. And so, Sean, of course, Nakobe Dean is on PUP, having that injury that he suffered during the playoffs last year. Jeremiah Trotter has been starting next to Zach Bond during the early training camp here, but Jihad Campbell is starting to make some noise, the first-round pick that they were thrilled to have fall into their lap, basically. So with that, how do you see the Eagles linebacker core playing out both early in the year and maybe as the season progresses?
Yeah, Jihad Campbell was actually dealing with his own shoulder injury, if I'm not mistaken. So we really wasn't sure where he would be at this point just yet. So Jeremiah Trotter Jr. getting the reps here makes a lot of sense. He more than likely will be the starter in the first week, is my guess. I think just with him already being there a year, he's kind of got the upper hand, plus the injury with Campbell missing some of the OTAs and stuff like that. So I see him starting, and then I think eventually Campbell will start to rotate more and then probably take over. And then if by year's end, if Nakobe Dean is healthy enough and the team is willing to put him in there, we could start seeing him trying to take that spot back as well. So I'm a little nervous. This is actually going to turn into a little bit of a mess this year for that second linebacker spot.
Yeah, so I agree with you, and I see it evolving very similarly. And I think as Nakobe Dean comes back, particularly if the pass rush isn't doing what they expect, we might see Campbell moving over to the edge a little bit more to help with the pass rush juice as Nakobe Dean comes back. So from a redraft perspective, you're in on Zach Bond,
Absolutely.
but kind of out on the other 3 because they're going to lose value or not have value for long periods of time. Except for maybe you try and pick up Dean mid-year and stash him till late in the year. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, you could probably let him go for a while, honestly, and just let him float around on the waiver wire. And maybe a month or 2 in, maybe start looking to pick him up if you have room. Otherwise, it's probably going to be a lot of back and forth. It just depends on how patient they are with Campbell too, learning on the fly on some of this. So as far as drafting these guys, it's Zach Bond should be one of your top linebackers taken, and I'm pretty much skipping the rest until somebody really takes over. I'm just not going to worry about it, actually. I'm going to let somebody else worry with that headache this year.
Yep, I agree. It's sort of like some of these running back by committees on the offensive side of the ball. Sometimes it's best to just stay away from them or take them very late if they happen to fall very late. Otherwise, stay away. All right, let's move to the Broncos linebacker mash unit. So we're filming here on July 31st as a side note. And of course, previously, Drew Sanders tore a tendon in his foot. And so he's going to be out for an extended period of time. They don't expect it to be for the full season. Alex Singleton broke his thumb, underwent surgery this week, expected back in a week, but expected to play with a club on his hand. And then today during practice, Drake Greenlaw, who I love, Drake Greenlaw, who Sean Payton said he's like Mike Tyson when he's on the field, he pulled up lame while he was chasing a receiver during practice today and walked to the medical tent, then walked off uh, with the medical staff out to the locker room and so forth. So got quite the mess there in Bronco land. What's your thoughts on Alex Singleton and this broken thumb? 32 years old, coming off of ACL. Is this just him getting old, and do you still see him as a linebacker one, or do are you just going to pass on him? What do you think on Singleton?
I think for Singleton, I have to knock him down a little bit just because of the club issue. There's no way it's not going to affect his tackling. I mean, that's to wrap your hand around somebody and grab. If it's just a club, you're also going to be worried about hitting that. So I think it knocks him down just a little bit. It's just a thumb, so maybe maybe it heals quickly here. I still see him being one of the top linebackers throughout the season. Eventually, when all is said and done, especially with his 17 tackle ability per game, his outrageous numbers. Sanders, man, I think we're looking at another lost year here. I really do. If nothing else, he's going to be really behind. We don't even know the full extent of this injury yet. And, last year was the Achilles injury that took him out all season. So not a great start to his career. And then with Greenlaw, another guy who struggles to stay healthy. This was a lower leg injury, pulled up lame, different than the quad injury he was already dealing with. So maybe it's a hamstring, maybe it's just a calf. We don't know yet. But Sean Payton wasn't too concerned. I have injury concerns with Greenlaw already, so I'm looking more out on Greenlaw.
So interesting. So on Drake Greenlaw, if he could stay healthy, I could see him as a
Yeah.
number two linebacker, meaning
Mm,
number 13 through 24 from a scoring perspective. Unfortunately, I'm with you in that I'm just worried about his ability to stay healthy. So I can't draft him as a number two linebacker. I can draft him later with the hopes that maybe he gets healthy and performs that way, but I don't think I can take that risk.
sure.
And when we did our top 24 show on linebackers in terms of who was going to move to the top 24, with Singleton missing most of the year, you had predicted Singleton moving to the top 24. I predicted both Sanders and Greenlaw moving to the top 24. My prediction isn't looking that great right now. Um, on the Singleton front, I'm still not sold on him. I'll be honest with you. With the 32, the knee, now the thumb, I'm just not there. I'm actually kind of keeping an eye on Lavelle Bailey, this undrafted free agent from last year, who has been getting some early rave reviews. Not saying to go and pick him up very early, but maybe a very, very late round pick in your drafts, depending on what's happening on the injury situation, just somebody to watch for with the Broncos.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go to pick somebody else up as well. Maybe add another veteran. Justin Sternad just isn't going to get it done. So depending on how these injuries go, we may see somebody else come into the fold here.
Good point. So now on to the Titans. Cody Barton, who they signed in free agency, the clear number one linebacker there. I'll be interested in your take shortly on do you see him as a number one, or number two, or number three, et cetera, linebacker. But then James Williams, the former safety out of University of Miami, going to his second year, late round draft pick last year, appears to be the leader to play next to Barton at this time, ahead of Cedric Gray, the previous fourth round draft pick, and ahead of Otis Reese, who some people also thought. So first, let's talk about Cody Barton. Where do you see him on the linebacker spectrum? Number three linebacker, or maybe do you see him higher?
I think he can sneak into the bottom of the LB2s. I'm I'm definitely drafting him in like the LB5 range. Like he's going really late. Tennessee's going to be on the field a lot. Their defense, or at least I think so. So there's going to be plenty of tackle opportunities there. So I think his potential, low end LB2, probably ends up LB3, high to mid LB3, but with LB2 potential, and you can get this guy super cheap right now. So I'm definitely picking him up at his price right now.
Okay. And then we have James Williams, who, one thing about the Titans is last year in particular, both their starting inside linebackers played about 100% of the snaps, and with Williams having a little bit having secondary experience from college, high probability that he could stay on the field for all 3 downs as well. Are you chasing James Williams, or where do you see James Williams as you're looking at where he might land this year?
Yeah, he's a bigger guy too. He's like 6'4", 235, 240. I mean, he's got a good build. And he put up some numbers there at the end of last year when he got a chance. I'm picking him up. He's free right now. If I'm in best ball, I'm taking a last round dart throw at him because why not? We're looking at a guy that, like I said, potentially will be on the field 90, 100% of the time. And on a bad defense, they're going to be on the field a lot. So, yeah, I think he's definitely worth a pickup.
Yeah, I think he is, and I think he is going to be a 17-game starter. You would have thought Cedric Gray could have done something by now. Otis Reese
Yeah.
is just a guy. I don't see them picking up some veteran for this team that's probably not going to make the playoffs. So I think James Williams has a long runway here. So I'm with you on that. All right, moving over the Panthers. One of the big surprises since our last show, Josie Jewell. There really wasn't being talked about it very much, but he's still having concussion problems going back to late last year when he was put on injured reserve. And now Panthers have released him. Christian Roseboom, who was signed for depth. Some people thought, including me, that he was going to overtake Trevin Wallace for that number 2 linebacker role. Roseboom is going to be wearing the green dot. It's been made very clear he's been calling the signals and all. So at least it was great to get that clarity. Roseboom put up a lot of tackles last year when he's playing with the Rams and so forth. Do you see him being a number 2 linebacker or a number 3 linebacker?
Oh, that's good. I really like the way the Rams have structured their young defensive line. I think that's a big help to Christian Roseboom's numbers last year. That defensive line in front of him being so good cleaned up a lot of lanes for him to run in, make tackles in. Is he going
So
to
you're
have that?
saying the Panthers might not be as good as what you're saying?
It's Derek Brown and everyone else. I don't know that that's going to be enough. With the expectancy of Carolina's offense to be so much better this year, tackle opportunities are already starting to look a little lower. Now I see him as a 3, maybe in that Cody Barton range. He just doesn't give me enough. I don't know, enthusiasm that he's going to get me some sacks or interceptions or anything. He just feels like a guy out there, and that may be enough this year. But I don't think he's got the same ceiling as what Josie Jewell could have pulled off. But definitely draftable, and he's another guy who's nearly free.
I see him landing in this role. Good news is where the number 2 linebacker for the Panthers wasn't nearly on the field as much. They put him off quite a
Right.
bit, played roughly 80% of snaps. So bad news for Trevin Wallace. Roseboom should be on the field for about 100% of the snaps, basically. So just that alone probably puts him in the low end 2 to high end 3 linebacker range. So that's how I see Roseboom playing out as well. Right. Now, the Cowboys linebackers, as we move on here, very interesting. They trade for Kenneth Murray, and everybody's expecting Kenneth Murray to play the Mike position. Matt Eberflus, the former Bears head coach, comes over now as the Cowboys defensive coordinator. He brings Jack Sanborn over with him. Sanborn's worn the green dot in some of the practices, but is it just because Murray's away because his wife and him were having a baby? Murray's not quite back yet. So and they have Maris Lufau, who's getting some nice reviews right now to camp, and Damone Clark is actually the linebacker that I've heard the most about coming out of Cowboys camp. Of course, as a rookie, he led the Cowboys in tackles, then kind of fell out of favor with Zimmer, and he's out there. So what are you making of this Cowboys mess, and who do you think is going to end up being the starting Mike week 1 for the Cowboys?
Yeah, it's really getting jumbled up right now. Kenneth Murray waiting on the birth of his child is the big holdup here. If not, talks are saying that he would be the green dot guy right now, and Sanborn would be the number 2 there. So Sanborn's getting the run. Matt Eberflus's defenses have really showcased linebackers. We've got really good IDP production out of them over the years. I'm looking at Sanborn right now. And I think when Kenneth Murray does come back, I think he'll probably slot next to him, and we may actually see these guys kind of flip flop back and forth more this offseason still, preseason. Yeah, I still expect those two to be the starters week 1, especially with what they gave up trading for Murray. It feels like they really went and got him. Sanborn's familiarity was a big help to come over with, but Louisville's getting some good run here too. So it's hard to trust any of them right now. In best ball, I'm taking shots at Sanborn and Murray redrafts. I'm taking late shots at the same two. Maybe Murray slightly higher just because of the name value there.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of a different take from you. I
Sure.
partially agree with you. I think they traded for Murray to really play the Mike role. And so I think when he gets back from the baby, having his wife and so forth, I think
Mhm.
Murray slots in as that green dot linebacker in the middle. Sandbarn was a number 3 linebacker in Chicago. I think they brought him in because he knows Eberflus's defense. Eberflus likes him and trusts him, but he's not the most athletically gifted. He's probably a number 3 linebacker. So I see him playing the Sam role and coming off the field quite a bit. And so I really see Murray and Lufau as probably the top 2 linebackers, with Murray as the Mike, and then Sanborn as the number 3 Sam. The one caveat, though, and I got to be careful, this isn't my LSU bias, but there's really been a lot of positive stuff about Damone Clark here coming out. Um, and so that he's regained his confidence, Eberflus trusts him, and also just something to keep an eye on, that if Murray falls out of favor, does Clark move into that role? Just something to keep an eye on, folks. Hey,
They're not tricking me again with Damone Clark.
fooled me once. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, not
Uh,
again.
all right, and then the last linebacker group we're going to touch on today is the Cardinals. Mac Wilson has been playing as the Mike linebacker here in training camp, and so a lot of people were speculating that Akeem Davis-Gaither, who they signed in free agency from Cincinnati, who never could leapfrog past Logan Wilson or Jermaine Pratt, they thought, okay, here's Akeem Davis-Gaither opportunity, but he's not even getting into the rotation with the Cardinals. So why don't you talk a little bit about who's been rotating next to Mac Wilson and how you think it's going to play out at the end of the day as we get to week 1.
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise to me because I was on that Akeem Davis Gaither train there, and I thought it was just going to be a little bit of smoke here with Mac Wilson getting the start, but it looks like they're serious moving him to the mic. I'm not sure how much I trust this. I do know Cody Simon's been getting some work. Owen Papo, he has also been getting a good run here, so it's way more open than I anticipated here. I really thought it was Akeem Davis Gaither for you know the big free agent signing, quote unquote big there. Yeah, big surprise here. So I don't know if this is going to stick or if it's just a motivational thing where we see Wilson go back outside more and somebody else takes over the inside. I'm at a loss, man. I really don't know what to think of this group. Mac Wilson doesn't do enough for me to want to draft him. I don't feel that confident in him. And this defense is more of a one linebacker gig where, we're kind of like the Panthers. We're only going to get one guy who's really out there on the field. So I'm a little bit nervous of this entire situation, and I'm kind of avoiding all of them.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I thought back to Jonathan Gannon's days as the defensive coordinator for the Eagles before he became the Cardinals head coach. And what was one of the things we saw there is they had a lot of nondescript, undrafted, or lower round linebackers playing out there who they molded into stuff. If I remember right, Singleton started there. Didn't T.J. Edwards start there as well, if I
T.J.
remember correctly?
Edwards, Kaiser
And,
White,
yeah,
that,
and they developed them there. So that's part one. So Gannon doesn't necessarily feel like there's a need for these higher end caliber athletes in his defense. But to your point, they only start two. And look, Kaiser White, there's a reason he's still a free agent right now. Okay. He was just a guy, but he was able to do enough in this defense to put up, depending on scoring systems, low
mm,
linebacker 2 to high linebacker 3 numbers. If Mac Wilson, who I guess earned the trust enough that they didn't resign Kaiser White, who earned the trust of Gannon, is moving to that Mike spot, I can see him in that. We talked about him earlier, this Cody Barton, Christian Roseboom range. Once again, nothing spectacular, but if he's going to be on the field 95% of the time, and I just don't think that Akeem Davis Gaither, Owen Popo, or Cody Simon are going to leapfrog him. I think they're going to continue to battle for that number 2 spot. So I'm a little bit more in on Mac Wilson. I'm willing to take the chance, not too early in my draft, but I see him as probably finishing as a high end linebacker 3 is my guess.
that's pretty fair, I think.
Okay. All right, moving on to the Bengals here, and now moving to a couple of defensive line situations we want to talk about. Trey Hendrickson went from a hold out to hold in. I don't know why, if he was going to do that, why waste the $50,000 for the first few days every day that he wasn't there. Is they just said, look, just go in, man. Okay, make a good show, pretend you're happy and stuff. Don't lose $50,000 every day. So he does it. Shamar Stewart, they finally iron out his contract situation, so he is now signed. He was the last first rounder to get signed. So the Bengals have those guys in camp, but doesn't look like Hendrickson's playing anytime soon. I have two questions for you. The first one is, are you going to touch Hendrickson, or even if he signs this new contract after missing all this time, how are you feeling about it? So that's question number one. Question number two, you know what? Question number two on Joseph Asai, I'm going to save for when we get into the AFC North discussion. So let's just talk about Hendrickson here.
Yeah, I don't feel great about him, if I'm being honest. I think he's going to be 31, 32, something like that this year.
31, yep.
So, so
In
that's
December, I
already
believe it is.
a bit of a knock against him. He's not a high tackle guy either, so it's sack or bust for this guy, which I'm already off of. A lot of my leagues are tackle heavy, so I'm looking for a Daniil Hunter that can get me 50, 60, 70, 80 tackles, plus, 10, 12 sacks. I'm not looking just for a sack or nothing. That's not how I want my team set up. So he's already knocked on that for me. The holdouts just never seem to work. I think about Nick Bosa a few years ago when he held out, and just that slow start he got. He finally got his contract, but it just felt like it took forever before he got going. So we're probably going to lose a month or so from this guy, if assuming he plays week one. And with the way the seasons are these days, the first couple of weeks are extended preseason games. So I feel like we're going to lose a lot of production from him just off the bat, assuming he's playing. There's still that chance that he comes up with some kind of injury and can't get on the field. So I'm out on Hendrickson. And his ADP recently is starting to slide a good bit. So, yeah, I think a lot of people are.
Yep, great take. Absolutely agree with you. The Nick Bosa thing in particular has shown me. And by the way, same thing. Terry McLaurin requested a trade just a few
Oh,
hours
yeah.
ago. I guess it came out now. And these guys that are missing training camp, slower starts. There's one thing about being in shape versus football shape, et cetera, et cetera. I am out on Hendrickson right now. I'm with you as well. And as I mentioned, when we get to the AFC North, we'll talk about Osai as well. Now, the next one I'm going to give you is a dynasty related question, and that's related to Christian Wilkins. Of course, Christian Wilkins got released. He didn't want to have surgery on this foot. He was back in the boot again earlier this year. Apparently, he's maybe re injured it. Still doesn't want to have surgery. The Raiders released him. He kissed somebody on the head, which really apparently that really pissed off a teammate. just a lot of ugliness. And then some videos started coming out on X, and I don't want to go too far there, with some very questionable stuff that was happening on the field with Christian Wilkins, and all. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. From a dynasty perspective, though, when he's at full strength, he is one of the top defensive tackles. Are you going to trade and try and get him low in a dynasty team and maybe stash him? Or are you staying completely away from Christian Wilkins?
Oh boy! So, I actually have him on a dynasty team, and he was a big part of my defensive tackle room there. Um, dude's almost 30, I think. So even though he hasn't been in the league as long as some of these other guys, he's already almost one of the old guys. The fact that he's had trouble with his foot, re-injured it, doesn't want to do surgery. He's definitely not playing this year. Even if he signs a team and they somehow pass his physical, then surgery or not surgery, he's probably not playing this year at all.
Right.
So now we've lost another year. I'm not trading for him, and I'm not stashing him like that. As far as trading him away, there's not a lot of value there right now, unless you just find somebody that's overly desperate or still believes in the name. But for now, I think he's you just got to hold on to him or release him. I would be all right with that.
Yeah, so what makes it also challenging, because he was released and not put on injured reserve in most leagues, you can't stash him on IR. He has to
Right.
take up a full roster spot. So unless you have a really deep league where you can afford to potentially stash him, it makes it even harder. Believe it or not, if I had a very deep league and I had and depending on my team's build and so forth, like if I'm competing, I don't want to waste that roster spot, and all. But if I'm a rebuilding team, I'm trying to get him for pennies on the dollar and just stash him and see what happens. I mean, the risk reward factors is potentially there, particularly if he's sitting on a roster of a team that needs to win and they don't want to hold him. You might have some opportunities there. So, um, probably can't, so if you're trying to get rid of him, you can't get much for him. But
Yeah.
if you're stuck, or where he would be taking a roster spot, you have to release him. Maybe you can get pennies on the dollar for him. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. We have a few defensive back spots we want to hit, and then we'll get into our divisions. First, with the Broncos. So Riley Moss has put on about 10 pounds of muscle apparently, and is looking really good at outside cornerback right now, which means the Broncos have been primarily playing the rookie Jahdae Barron in the slot, which is really exciting for cornerback required leagues. So, Sean, your take on Jahdae Barron and playing in the slot?
It's a great spot. It's the rookie rule. He's going to get targeted. He's going to be down closer to the line of scrimmage. So it's the sweet spot that we want for cornerbacks in cornerback leagues. Does he stay there? Does he start moving outside if Moss struggles this year? What about Jaquan McMillan too? I mean, he's not like he was just terrible last year. NFL wise, this is a great looking secondary. Probably one of the best we've seen in a long time. IDP wise, I really don't know who to go with here. I do think I'm taking a shot on Barron, and I'm taking less of a shot on Moss just because with Barron being the rookie, I feel like he'll get more targets this year. They're definitely not throwing at Surtain. So maybe you take a shot at Moss too, but him being outside corner, they can be up and down more, where Barron will have a better, more consistent, I guess, week to week production, assuming he's full time slot and not rotating.
Yeah. So right now, I have Barron in my top 12 cornerbacks, and so I think about what Jaquan McMillan did last year, and while he was very effective in that role, and was depending once again on scoring systems, a number one or high end number two cornerback this past year.
Mm-hmm.
Barron should easily be able to do that. And depending on what happens with some of these linebacker injuries, Barron actually played a little bit linebacker at Texas as well. Not much, but he took a few snaps there for coverage and all. So I love Barron this year. I have him as a top 12.
That's a good point because he has practiced some at linebacker as well. back in the OTAs. So before these injuries really started happening, he was already getting some looks there. So maybe that's a possibility too, where he becomes more of a Josh Patelis like play. Probably not full time though. I don't know if he's built quite for that, but definitely interesting. Very interesting.
Exactly. All right, so let's talk about the Eagles. Cooper DeJean, slot cornerback extraordinaire, pick six in the Super Bowl. Um, some punt returning. Don't know if he'll be doing that again this year or not. He did a little bit last year. And interestingly enough, with C.J. Gardner Johnson being traded, they have Andrew Makuba, the second round rookie that they drafted, has played some in the safety position next to Reed Blankenship. They've had Sidney Brown, the second round draft pick from I think 3 years ago now. He's in his third year, has played some, and then they started putting Cooper DeJean there at safety. So, what are your thoughts about DeJean and his usage? They also used him as a number one corner or a starting cornerback opposite Quinion Mitchell as well. What are your thoughts on Cooper DeJean? Are you happy about all this? Or are you nervous about all this? And how do you see him from a draftability perspective,
I
where
mean,
cornerbacks are required?
if he's, we were already kind of hoping he would be that slot guy anyway. But if he's also getting a little more safety looks as well, if he is the starting safety, I think it just kind of boosts his value, especially with cornerback designation on some of these leagues. So you're getting almost a second linebacker out there with a safety playing up in the box with corner designation. So slight cheat code, but it sounds like they definitely want him on the field. He is a playmaker. They're trying to get him somewhere where he can just get turned loose. Like they are playing him up close to the line and not deep, where Reed Blankenship is pretty much going to own that deep field. So they have plans for him to be up near the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what I want to hear when I'm thinking cornerback.
Yeah. So I'm thrilled. This pushes him in the top 4 or 5 cornerbacks as well. They're trying to get him on the field 100% of the snaps. So if he plays outside corner and then moves in the slot in 3 wides, things along those lines, or particularly if he plays safety and then goes down to the slot in 3 or 4 wide, that's beautiful. And so he'd be on the field, more than he was last year to help boost his productivity and his stats. I'm all in on Cooper DeJean. So that's my thoughts. So right there with you from a cheat code perspective. All righty, so we're going to wrap up our IDP news and notes there. I'll try and remind everybody later, but if you have questions about certain positions, certain players from an IDP perspective, and want our take on it, drop it in the comments section of this show on the YouTube channel, and Sean and I will grab those and we will add them to our IDP news and notes and talk about them next week and give you our takes of what we think is going to happen, what we've seen, and what we think is going to happen for these players. So take advantage of it, folks. Okay, all righty. So now we want to move into our divisions, and we're going to start with the AFC East. And what I want to do is I'm going to quickly flash for those that are watching on YouTube the categories we're going to use. And you can see we have MVP, breakouts, lemons, return to relevance for people who maybe were injured or
Just
maybe
a
had a
down
really bad
year.
year and going to potentially come back. Sleepers, which we're calling hidden gems, and then maybe someone who we love for the future from a dynasty perspective, but maybe won't get the run this year that we think. So those are the 6 categories we have. So we're going to do that for each of the divisions. Um, but before we start with AFC East, just a quick plug for idpplus.com. Go and check out idpplus.com, folks. Great articles, great rankings, great tools, Discord help from a lot of experts in both offense and IDP, not to mention a lot of help with those of you that like to partake in maybe the wagering world as well. So anyway, go check out IDP Plus, and you won't be disappointed. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the AFC East. And for those that are watching on the screen, you can see the 6 categories, and you see Sean's picks and my picks. And for the AFC East, starting with Crown Jewels, our MVPs that we picked, Sean, you went with Robert Spillane, who I have to admit was my second choice for this division. Talk about Robert Spillane.
This wasn't easy. There's four linebackers I really like out of this division. I think it's a really good division for linebackers, and two to three of them got a really good case to be the MVP here. Some injury concerns with like Terrell Bernard, who I very could easily put here. And then Sherwood, I'll let you talk a little more about him in a minute, but it came down to he didn't give me more than tackles, where Robert Spillane gave me the tackles, sacks, interceptions, all that fun stuff we want, with the tackles. So 300 tackles over the last 2 years. He's like the eighth ranked run defense linebacker, I think, to PFF. And he's going to a better team. Doesn't mean he's going to be on the field as much. Got a better line in front of him. Christian Barmore, Milton Williams, you got Harold Landry on the end. You got Keon White there as well. So there's enough moving parts, I think, to keep him clean, to still make a bunch of tackles this year. Talked about his big play potential with the sacks and the interceptions, all those bonus points we love to have. So with his versatility and his ability to get splash plays and just be a very well-rounded point scorer for IDP, that's why I chose him.
And like I said, he was definitely someone that I had under consideration as well. So Jamie and Sherwood, who I went with, and once again, scoring systems are so critical, when it comes to
Yeah,
IDP, and in the Kings Classic, which you and I used as the scoring system for the top 24 repeaters and non-repeaters in that previous series. And once again, if you missed it, check it out on IDP Plus Advice channel. Great stuff there, or Spotify. But on the Kings Classic scoring, Jamie and Sherwood actually scored fourth highest, and of course for all linebackers. And the the Jets rewarded Sherwood with a big contract. He basically pushed Mosley out. Of course, Mosley was hurt as well, but pushed him out and into retirement. The one thing I've heard about the Jets training camp, and part of the reason I also have another Jets linebacker on this list, is that they're going to use the linebackers even more aggressively in a lot of blitzing as well. So some of the roles and how they're going to be used has changed. So to your point in terms of, maybe not, he gave a lot of tackles, but not as much of the other stuff. And Sherwood is also a former defensive back. He played defensive back at Auburn. So I think he has the capability to cover as well. I just think he will be used very differently this year, which will allow him to get not only the tackles as he did, but add a few sacks, maybe a few pass deflections, etc. And so I think that's going to push him. And like I said, he finished number 4 in the Kings Classic scoring system last year. By the way, I have my Kings Classic shirt on from last year right here, and I'm looking forward to competing in that. And we'll talk about that in a promo here a little bit later. So sorry for that aside note. But anyway, Jamie and Sherwood is my man for MVP here. You're right. I like Spillane. I like Bernard. The reason I didn't put Bernard was because of the injury concerns that you
yeah,
brought up. I just don't see him making 17 games again this year. All right, breakout star. And when I did mine, originally Cole Bishop was my number 1 as well. Then I saw yours and I'm like, I'm going to change mine so we have somebody else to talk about. So talk about Cole Bishop as your breakout star, the second round pick going into his second year with Buffalo.
yeah. He was supposed to be the breakout star last year. Got hurt, lost a lot of time in training camp early in the season. So Damar Hamlin kind of took that role and just ran with it until eventually I think he got hurt a little bit last year as well. So it's been the plan for him to kind of take over this entire time. This year he's pretty much got the role next to Taylor Rapp. Damar Hamlin did re-sign with the team, but as a backup. So they didn't guarantee him a starting role. That pretty much tells me that Bishop's the starting guy. Um, so with him coming in, we got Taylor Rapp. There's injuries in front of him with Mulatto, Bernard. I feel like there's going to be plenty of tackle opportunities. He's still got a little bit of that rookie shine to him, so targeted, and maybe some deep throws as well. I did find out today he got a little bit of quad injury, missed a little bit of practice, so that's something I'm going to have to keep an eye on. But I'm really excited for his potential this year. I think he will play I'm assuming he's going to play up near the line. I do think the Bills were one of the teams that were very split on their safeties as not a true box safety, or both of them played back a lot, if I recall, and then it was kind of split on the boxes. So I think he's in line for a good 90 tackles, 2 or 3 interceptions, maybe force a fumble or two in there as well. So I'm really excited to watch him break out this year.
Yeah. So the and Cole Bishop, his skill set is more of a box safety type. So
Yeah,
even though they use Hamlin and Rapp a little bit differently, I do think they'll use Bishop a little bit differently, playing more a little bit more to his skill set, a little bit more towards the box. So I do love Cole Bishop as well for this year. I went with Will McDonald. So Will McDonald finished in most scoring systems probably as a low end defensive end, 2 high end defensive end, 3 with 10 sacks. He had um, a total of 28 tackles, 18 solo, 10 assists. So want to see the tackles up. But one of the things I love, so the thing with Will McDonald when he was drafted is great speed, but I used to joke on one of my shows, very light in the pants. And he has put on about 15 pounds of muscle in the off season. The initial reports that he's holding up much better along the edge in run situation, which means he'll have to come off the field less. And with that additional strength to go along with the speed that he has, I see those 10 sacks that he had last year becoming in that 13, 14, maybe even 14 and a half range. I see the tackles from a rush perspective going up by about another 10 or so in total between solo and assisted. So I feel really good about McDonald. Bryce Huff is out of there. Some of the other noise out of there. Jermaine Johnson coming back from an Achilles injury, but people come back from an Achilles injury in their first year, just don't come all the way back,
yeah.
like we'd like them to. So, it usually takes a couple years for them to fully get there. So you can see a Johnson Clemens rotation and McDonald playing a lot more. So I feel really good about Will McDonald. He's my breakout star here in the AFC East.
He was also on my list, and the other guy was Chop Robinson, who I feel is still kind of stuck behind a couple other guys here, but and he kind of broke out, I guess, towards the end of last year. He actually came on fairly strong there at the end. So really good options here across the board with a lot of these teams.
Yeah, and Chop Robinson, you hit on exactly why he wasn't on the list for me. It was because the whole Bradley Chubb, Jalen
Yeah,
Phillips, Chop Robinson, that's a lot of mouths for primarily 2 positions. So that's why I left Chop off and Will McDonald as well. All right, let's go to our lemons. And this isn't lemons that we make lemonade out of. These are our busts. And you started with Kyle Duggar for the Patriots as your choice for the AFC East.
yeah, I'm a little soured on him this year. He's going in
Boo
the
boo.
yeah, he's going like a safety 7, 8, 9, somewhere around that range. It's not a terrible range, but I think with all the additions they brought into the Patriots defense this year, I think his tackle opportunities are going to drop significantly. Doesn't have a whole lot of big plays to go with his wheelhouse there, and between him and Jabril Peppers, I never really did figure out who's the box safety, who's the deep guy. It felt like it just kind of varied from week to week. I don't know what we'll see this year. Um,
Totally
but
new
yeah,
defensive coordinator,
totally new
defensive
defense. Yeah,
system.
and I don't recall in Mike Vrabel's time in Tennessee a really good box safety role. I know Kev Byard was there for years, but he's always been the deep cleanup guy, picking up the trash that the linebackers missed. But I think there's too many mouths here on this defense that Duggar's just going to have a down year.
Okay. And then I went with Matt Milano, who, when I showed my list to my 25-year-old son, he
Who?
says, "Dad,
Yeah,
really? Yeah, Matt Milano? Come on, that's not that's kind of that's kind of weak, Dad." And so,
he's on mine
um,
too.
so Milano's pretty far down the list, but there's some people, and the reason I put him there is some people still remember the Matt Milano name.
Mhm.
And they still hold him from high regards from a few years ago. And it's like, well, he's been injured, and that's why, and he's going to be healthy and all that kind of stuff. But he's in his 30s now, folks.
Yes.
Um, they renegotiated his contract to make it a 1-year contract, and he's going to be a free agent after this year. He's been injury prone. So for those that are holding on to his name, just let it go, folks. Stay away from Matt Milano. If anything, Sean talked about some best ball drafts and so forth. If anything, I would be drafting Dorian Williams late in a draft ball. I mean, late in a best ball draft as opposed to Matt Milano.
Shaq Thompson's another guy picking up some steam in this backup group, which has been kind of forgotten. He's been injured himself the last few years in Carolina, so underrated, sneaky signing by Buffalo to pick him up. To also familiar with Sean McDermott, his time in maybe they were there together in Carolina. That's been a long
I
time
believe
ago.
they
So,
were. I believe they were.
so yeah, that's another name. If in best ball in those late rounds, Jordan Williams, Shaq Thompson, those are both really good targets, I think.
Okay. So now as we go to the return to relevance category, and you and I went to the same teams, and we just briefly mentioned it when we were talking about Chop Robinson. You went with Jalen Phillips, and I went with Bradley Chubb. So why don't you talk about Jalen Phillips, and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
I know why I'm wrong. It's the injuries, right? That's to both leg, Achilles and ACL in back-to-back years. That's a lot to overcome. Uh, I've seen the flashes from Phillips. Maybe it's a little more hope than anything here. He's looking for a contract, and the only way he's going to get it is if he can stay on the field for 15 plus games. Can he do that? I really hope so. The Dolphins definitely need him to do so. This guy's free in best ball leagues. Redraft, he's also about free. So the value's there for him if he could just stay healthy enough, and that's a big if, like a massive if. But if he does, then yeah, he could put up double digit sacks, 50, 60 tackles. But that's probably a lot of wishful thinking here.
Yeah. Well,
What do you got?
here's a thought process for me is that you brought up the two injuries he's had the last 2 years and so forth.
Yeah,
So even if he can still stay healthy, I just don't think he'll have the explosiveness this year. And it's someone that I would be buying low going into 2026 because I just don't think he'll be as effective this coming year. I think, even if he stays on the field for, say, 15 games or whatever. The difference in why I went with Chubb in this particular case is while Chubb is in that age 30 area as well, Chubb had a full year recovery. So he got hurt in 2023, sat out all of 2024, could have come back late last year. They chose not to. So he's had all that time to get healthy, to really truly recover. And so that's why I feel a lot better about Chubb than I do Jalen Phillips. Now, from a dynasty perspective, if I can get Jalen Phillips cheap and stash him, I'm all in on that. But I'm not looking for a whole lot from him this year.
it would have to be really cheap too. Like they're practically giving him away because the risk here, I think, is still awful high to give up anything of real value. Like you
Right.
say, yeah, the price would have to be right, and I think that price is very low to get that value there.
Okay. All right, let's move on to our sleepers, our hidden gems. And you went with Tyrell Dodson, and I went with Quincy Williams. And I'll just pick up with Quincy Williams first. I talked about the Jets and Jamian Sherwood earlier and how they're going to use the linebackers very differently. Quincy Williams finished in the Kings Classic scoring just outside the top 24.
Yeah, he
So
was
that's why,
25.
yeah, and so that's why I felt comfortable putting him in the sleeper category because it's not like he finished in the top 12 or top 15 or whatever. He was down. A lot of people are down on him. And I just think with the new coaching staff, the utilization that I've read about, letting him rush more, getting a few more of those sacks as he's done in the past, pushes him back up the list. And that's why I had Quincy Williams. I want to talk about Tyrell Dodson, who started with the Seahawks last year, got released. Dolphins picked him up, and then he moved into the lineup when Walker got hurt there.
Yeah, he had 107 tackles between the two teams, and for 3 games with Miami, he didn't even play. Set out those 3 games, or was just not used. Part of that's because Miami uses full time linebackers, two 100% 3 down linebackers. So that's a big plus. He's pretty much wrapped that second spot up. He's got the green dot right now, so he is playing the calls. He was PFF's number 3, I want to say, ranked linebacker in coverage. And if you look at his 3 starts with Miami at the end of the year, 10 tackle game against the Packers, 15 tackle game with an interception against the Browns, 4 tackles, interception with the Jets. So you're averaging 10 tackles a game there, 2 interceptions, a couple pass deflections. Those are really good numbers. Uh, it's it's a small sample size, but it does show some pretty big capabilities there. Right now, in IDP Plus rankings, he is number 49 amongst linebackers. Fantasy Pros has him in the 34, 35 range. And in some recent best ball leagues that we did with Gary, the breast cancer awareness charity best ball leagues, he was going as linebacker 63.
Wow.
And some of that skewed a bit because edge rushers, some of those count as linebackers too. So that skewed a bit. But still, we're looking at a guy who's got LB2 potential here, mid, maybe high LB2 potential for an LB4 price tag.
Yep. Love that. And love that. And I think that is someone that's definitely being overlooked. He's being overlooked. He was originally an undrafted free agent. He got released by Seattle, so there's all that negativism with him.
Mhm.
But it's kind of like Mac Wilson when we talked about him earlier. He's on the field and he's playing 100% of the snaps, and he stays on the field for coverage and so forth, and gets those pass defense. He had a couple of interceptions last year when he got over to Miami in that system and all. That could be a real steal. What's interesting there, I've been reading a lot of camp notes from all over the place to try and help inform everyone as much as we can, similar to what Sean is doing as well. Willie Gay is getting a lot of positive vibes coming out of the Dolphins camp.
Yeah,
you know, but just like Damone Clark, be careful about the Willie Gay trap as well. We've learned some lessons. But if Dodson did get hurt or Jordan Brooks, Willie Gay's someone you do want to kind of scoop up pretty quickly because in that Dolphins system, whoever's out there playing about 100% of the snaps in both cases and can be very effective.
and again, Willie Gay is known for his coverage abilities, and right now this Dolphins team is banged up bad. Secondary is a mess. A complete overhaul from last year. Defensive
Yeah.
line isn't very strong. Edge rushers are sketchy at best just because of injury concerns. So this team projects to be able to field a lot.
Yeah, so next week's show we'll probably hit on a little bit Dolphins and secondary and what we're hearing about who's stepping up and who's playing and so forth as the offseason progress. I mean, as training camp progresses here. All right, let's quickly hit so we can move on to the AFC Central. Future investment for Dynasty, Landon Jackson with Buffalo Bills. Sean.
He's in a great spot to learn here. Greg Russo, Joey Bosa, Epinesa, all these guys. He gets to basically sit back, learn this year. I believe he's on pup right now, or just came off pup actually. Sean McDermott, he's known for being a really good defensive line coach. Gets the most out of his guys. Maybe we see some rotation late in the year, but for now, he's a dynasty stash. Looking into maybe next year for some big plays here.
Yeah, I see him as a potential bookend to Russo here in a year or so, year and a half or so. I'm with you on that one. On Kenneth Grant, I'm usually, when it comes to defensive tackles and big ones, it's like, okay, I'm not usually chasing nose tackles, but in a defensive tackle required league, there's something about Kenneth Grant when I watched his highlights out of University of Michigan that he feels like more than just a defensive tackle. I mean, excuse me, a nose tackle. And I see some pass rush capabilities, not to go along with the run stopping capabilities. But if he loses just a little bit more weight, and with the Dolphins have had great success with defensive tackles and turning something, um, turning lemons into lemonade. Look what they've done with Zach Sealer. Look what they helped Christian Wilkins to become when he was behaving normally. Things along those lines. I think there's hope for Kenneth Grant there as well too. So I like Kenneth Grant in defensive tackle required leagues for the future as well. All
Kenneth
right.
Graham was second on my list, so I'm right there with you.
All right. Good deal. All right. So that concludes the AFC East. And we're going to move on to the AFC Central. But before we do, I've got to plug in for the Fantasy Football Expo. August 1st, Friday, is the last day to buy tickets online at a discounted price. If you don't buy them by end of day Friday, August 1st, You will have to buy it at the door at full price, which will be $25 more. So take advantage of it. Come on out and enjoy the cornhole tournaments. Come and enjoy the drafts. You see the Kings Classic drafts with many people that you see on, are here on Sirius XM or maybe on TV, etc. Or your big name outlets that'll be there. Come and meet and greet them. Come and meet folks like myself. There's drafts you can participate on Sundays. There's a bunch of panels as well. I'll be sitting on the redraft panel again this year, answering all of your questions. Come on out and meet a great community. Come to the Fantasy Football Expo August 8th through 10th in Canton. It is right around the corner. I will be flying there late next week myself. And with that, let's move to the AFC Central, Sean. And in the crown jewels, you have someone that I considered, and I probably have someone you considered.
Absolutely.
You went with Myles Garrett. Why don't you talk about Myles Garrett?
Yeah, the hard part here was just trying to keep this from being a linebacker award. And with this division, there's two really good edge rushers, and I chose the one I think's the better of the two, Myles Garrett. His dude's elite. He's been elite since he's been in the league. His rookie year is the only year he hasn't had double-digit sacks. So I mean, he's getting regular 12, 14, not quite 20, but yeah, with his tackle abilities, force fumbles, and everything else, that's massive.
Yeah, and I went with Roquan Smith, the linebacker for the Ravens, and I did consider both Myles Garrett as well as T.J. Watt. But after the slander that I did to the Steelers and T.J. Watt during our top 24 risers and fallers, I couldn't put T.J. Watt in there, and so I decided to go with the linebacker Roquan Smith. And so once again, depending on the scoring systems, on a points per game basis, Roquan Smith actually was in the once again, depending on the scoring system, in the number 10 range this past year for linebackers. But I still expect him to be a top 3 linebacker this year. He'll be drafted as a top 3 linebacker. Very reliable. Uh, he did miss one game this past year, if I remember correctly. But Roquan is someone that if I'm building a team, and I want that stud linebacker to anchor my team. Roquan Smith is definitely in the running for that, and I have him as the MVP for the AFC North. Let's go to breakout stars. I don't think anybody's going to argue with whether it be Roquan Smith or Myles Garrett or T.J. Watt, et cetera, except for me, maybe on T.J. Watt. But let's go to the breakout stars and Jordan Battle with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, this came down to him and Carson Schweschinger for me, and I decided to take the safety here just because this team doesn't look very good on defense, and with the holdouts between Stewart and Hendrickson, they're behind. This defensive line didn't look great to begin with. We've got some rookies, some new guys starting at linebackers also next to Logan Wilson. So I'm just seeing plenty of tackle opportunities. This team looks to be on the field as much as it was last year, if not more. And I think Jordan Battles is really going to eat up tackles this year. He hasn't been the starter the last 2 years. He's been in the rotation where maybe he started half the year in each season. His tackle numbers are solid. Got some big playability, and it's sky's the limit for him this year.
Yeah, so last year they had him in that rotation with Von Bell. That was very
Mm-hmm.
frustrating. And it wasn't like from game to game; it was within game. One was playing 60%, one was playing 40% or 55 and 45, things along those lines in a lot of the games. Very frustrating for either one of them. So, but now it's his opportunity. And one of the things about Al Golden, the Notre Dame defensive coordinator, came over um, to become the new Bengals defensive coordinator, is that he tended to use a single high safety quite a bit at Notre Dame. And so that could mean battle closer to the box. So he was one of the ones I considered as well. But I went with the rookie Carson Schweschinger. And I think the opportunity is so huge for him from a linebacker perspective, even as a rookie. And rookie linebackers don't always typically rack up a ton of snaps and a ton of tackles, but I think Schweschinger and someone else we'll talk about later will be exceptions to that rule this year. Jordan Hicks retired. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is out for the year with a neck problem. and Schlesinger is competing with the likes of Devin
Jerome Baker.
Bush, Jerome Baker, the guy whose name I always butcher, Muhammad
Mo,
Diabate, or some along
Mo,
those lines.
Momu Diabate.
There you go. Thank you very much. And I'll still butcher it next time I say it.
That's all right.
They basically picked him at pick number 33, which is basically a first round pick, sort of. So that, with the first pick of the second round on day, start of day two, there it was seen that he had the green dot on in one of the practices in the last couple of days. I
Yeah.
just think the opportunity is so huge, and when you think about the Browns and their offense is going to be putrid, most likely. Their defense will be on the field. Boy, in the fourth quarter, you can see Schlesinger just racking up tackle after tackle as the teams are running out the clock and so forth. Just think huge opportunities for Schlesinger. High end linebacker two. I'd probably call him a linebacker one if he had a little bit more experience.
Yep. Right there with you.
All right. So on the limit side of things, you had Trey Hendrickson. I also had Trey Hendrickson. I didn't want to have the same one. I want to have somebody else to talk about. We already talked about Hendrickson a little bit earlier in the news and notes, so I'm going to go ahead and hit on Trent Simpson. So supposedly this year, it was Trenton Simpson's job to lose next to Roquan Smith. I'm just not convinced that he's going to keep that role. And now they didn't draft a first or second round linebacker, but they did use a fourth round pick, they being the Baltimore Ravens, on Teddy Buchanan out of California. Now that was a little bit higher than some of the draft nicks thought that he would go, but Baltimore seems to be very pleased with him. And I think I'm going to see a repeat of what happened last year, where Simpson started the year, and then you had people like Malik Harrison and Chris, special teams, just a guy bored, playing snaps next to Roquan Smith because they had so little confidence in Trenton Simpson. Now, supposedly he spent a lot of time with Roquan Smith off season, getting educated, and maybe I'll be wrong. But as of now, I'm not feeling really confident about him, and I am calling him a lemon or bust for this coming year, and not someone I am touching or drafting at this point in time. Kind of harsh, huh, Sean?
No, man, he's just a kid. I'm a little more in on Trenton Simpson. I'm not going massively in, but in these late rounds where nobody's drafting him, I'm picking him up, and I'm kind of stashing him because, like I say, I think he at least gets the start here to begin with. And if he just happens to keep on to it, then I just got extreme value here for nothing.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, we may have to have a Diet Coke or a beer bet or something on that one. All right, so moving on to the return to relevance category, we in the news and notes we skipped the Steelers because I knew we would talk about it here. Of course, the Steelers traded away Minka Fitzpatrick and acquiring Jalen Ramsey. They signed Juan Thornhill in the offseason, and they just recently signed Chuck Clark. So tell me how you think the safety position is going to evolve here with the Pittsburgh Steelers and why you have Clark here.
I think Chuck Clark is going to give Juan Thornhill more than he can handle in this camp battle. He's a proven green dot guy in the past with the Ravens, and he wasn't exactly terrible last year. It was just a weird rotation with the Jets and that 4-man safety group they had going on. And Juan Thornhill just has never done it for me, so I think he does come in and take this job from him. I do see him being the deep safety in this group. Deshaun Elliott's going to be your box guy up close, so tackles are still going to be limited for Clark. He does have that interception, appeal, I guess. The biggest thing here was there's just a whole lot of names in this division that I could really go with that would be, making a return to relevance. So when they signed him, I'm like, that's all I need. That was the biggest jump for me. But I do think he ends up being the starter, and if he can stay healthy, give us that full 16, 17 game season, then he'll be worth a safety 3 finish, probably. Maybe a chance at a safety 2 if he gets enough interceptions, but getting a little long with tooth there. Speaking of long with tooth Steelers, tell me a little bit about Jalen Ramsey.
Well, so Jalen Ramsey, who has had success as a cornerback in various scoring systems from an IDP perspective, but last year played a lot of outside corner with the Dolphins. As he goes back to the Steelers, They're planning on playing him a lot in that star position, which is where Ramsey made his name. And he is still a good tackling machine.
Yeah.
He's still a turnover creation machine. Once again, a lot of times with these cornerbacks is how they're utilized and where they're going to be utilized. And there was even talk about using him a little bit at safety from time to time to disguise some coverages as well. So I
Right.
think Ramsey's going to be on the field 100%, and the way he's going to be utilized, and he'll play some outside corner, but probably not a lot because they've got Porter, they've got Slay out there, etc. So I'm looking for Ramsey to have a return of relevance and jump back into like the top 5, top 8 from a cornerback perspective. So it's not that he was injured last year or I think he's not coming back from that. He just wasn't a high score because of how the Dolphins used him. This
Mhm.
year, the way Steelers use him, I have him way up the rankings from a cornerback perspective, and that's why I have him on the return to relevance list.
Yeah,
On the
that's way up there at top 5, top 8. That's big, Ricky.
Yeah, go big or go home, man. And look, the Chuck Clark thing, uh, I see him moving to the starting lineup as well. I mean, Thornhill couldn't keep Ronnie Hickman, a seventh round draft pick, or maybe undrafted free agent, and Rodney McLeod, very over
Yeah.
the hill. He couldn't keep them off the field. So, maybe the one risk is that Clark on rushing downs, Thornhill on passing downs, a little bit something weird along those lines. But I don't think so. I think Clark moves into the starting lineup. Thornhill goes to the bench. So I'm right there with you. I don't see him getting to the safety twos, but a chance for safety threes for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then to your point with Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter Jr. there is kind of the lockdown guy on that team. So, that does open up some more. So, who do you throw at? You got Ramsey, you got Porter, and who was the other one?
Big play Slay.
Big Play Slay. That's right. Wow, what a group. 10 years ago.
Even better team, but still, I mean, Slay still played fairly well last year for the
Yeah.
Eagles, and it was just his contract of why they released him. So, uh, fair enough. So let's, in the interest of time, let's go move on to the sleepers here. We talked a little bit about the Bengals defensive ends, and so you're high on Joseph Asai.
Yeah, he finished last year strong. 6 of his last 7 games last year, he got at least half a sack. I think he finished with about 5.5 on the season. So he finished strong when Sam Hubbard got hurt. And look, nobody benefited more with Shamar Stewart being out and Trey Hendrickson being out. It's just Joseph Asai has been the top guy through all camps and practice. I'm seeing a lot of good reviews out of him as well. So I think he hits the ground running this year. Somebody's going to run into him eventually to get some sacks. So I feel like that was enough. And for his price tag, he's free.
He'll get a lot of snaps, and I don't, if Hendrickson does make it in, I don't expect that Shamar Stewart would start over Osai either. I
Right.
think Stewart would get some rotation plays and all. The only thing I worry about Osai was that his pressure win rate, according to PFF,
Yeah.
wasn't that great. So that some I do worry about some a little bit negative regression on those sacks because unless he improves in terms of that that pressure win rate. Well, that's hard to remember inside.
I don't even try to say
Yeah.
it.
So that's my only concern about him. Moving on to my side, I went with Demetrius Knight. I talked about rookie linebackers and how that's very unusual, but I'm expecting that Golden will have Knight on the field 100% of the snaps, similar to what they did with Jermaine Pratt alongside Logan Wilson. And once again, rookies typically linebackers don't have that kind of productivity and all, but I see Demetrius Knight coming in as a linebacker too this year. So with 100% of the snaps, he's got the speed, he's got sideline to sideline. He's been showing pretty well in coverage, what they're saying right now. So Demetrius Knight is the sleeper I'm rolling with here for the AFC North.
Any worry about Oren Burks there to start the season?
Not worried about Oren Burks, to be honest with you, even to start the season. They pretty much plugged Knight in starting at the beginning of OTAs, and he's been there from the start. So if Knight happens to falter, maybe they put Burks in, but I see Burks as that kind of number 3 linebacker, like a Jack Sanborn type, will get some snaps, but I don't see him usurping Demetrius Knight.
Good deal.
All right. And now, so on the dynasty side of things, um, you went with Derek Harmon with the Pittsburgh Steelers, their first round draft pick.
Yeah, 21st overall pick. I don't know what they do with him to start out with because Cam Hayward still has his spot locked down, so maybe he gets some rotation next to him.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll.
actually, I've read that Harmon's been starting along with it's been Harmon, Benton, and Hayward of how they've been using the starting lineups.
So they are putting him already in there. Oh
Yeah,
wow. Yeah, I assumed he would rotate next to Hayward, but I didn't see him coming in for Hayward. So yeah, even better. Yeah, this guy's going to be a stud. I think. I don't see Hayward playing past this year. I think this is it for him. So what a good year! What a great player to learn from. Good defense has been rolling for years. Next year, I think he really blows up, but it sounds like it could be as early as this year.
yeah, I'm with you. I think this year is a little bit of a learning experience for him. He gets a lot of playing time, but maybe the stats aren't there, which might
Yeah,
allow you to buy him cheap next offseason. But then I think next year he becomes their next Cam Hayward. I think he's got great pass rush stats. He had some missed tackle issues in college, which I think the Steelers will help him to clean up. And so I love Derek Harmon for the future as well. I went with a surprising name. I mean, I considered Harmon, I considered Shamar Stewart, I considered Mike Green. I went with Nick Herbig, who, when he is on the field, is extremely effective. High pass rush win rates. When he is on the field, the and I still have concerns about T.J. Watt and his health and at age 31 and the way he plays. And I talked about that when we talked about the top 24 edges and so forth. So one of two things happens: either Watt gets hurt and Herbig becomes a future star there, and the Steelers paid a lot of money for an injury-prone older guy, or Herbig leaves in free agency and Jack Sawyer ends up replacing Herbig in the third linebacker role, and Herbig goes somewhere else and is a very successful edge player with a new team next year. So that's why I went with Herbig. Although I do like Mike Green, he fell to the second round because it was off the field concerns.
yeah.
I like him more than Shamar Stewart for the future, quite frankly. So, but Herbig is the one I decided to go with because I just want to be a little bit provocative and make sure, once again, when we're talking about dynasty, get people thinking about some potential stashes.
I'm not big on Stewart. If I'm being honest, he just doesn't do it for me. I felt that way through all the Ricky stuff and the draft and all that. He just, I see him as a bust. If I'm being honest.
All right. Hey, one name we didn't talk about on this list, that didn't come up for either one of us on this list, but I'm guessing he came up for you, and that's another linebacker for the Steelers, and that's Peyton Wilson. So
I
how you feeling about Peyton Wilson this year?
I considered him in my limit list
Oh,
because
limit list. Oh, wow.
I think he'll be overdrafted and just not get enough playing time to justify where he's getting drafted. Steelers, it's usually a one linebacker deal, and they just don't. The way that defense is set up, they just don't get the stats, and it's been that way for years. And I don't think it's a personnel problem. I think it's the scheme itself. I think it's the problem. So, and I'm seeing his ADP go up. I know people are excited. Patrick Queen's still there, and it's just the way this defense is set up. I just don't see him getting the numbers that people think he will this year. He's going to have to overtake Queen and have that number one role to even be considered by me.
Now, Sean and I did not discuss this before the show, by the way, and that was the exact opposite of what I expected Sean to say. Um, I considered him for both breakout star and sleeper, the exact opposite of you. Um, to your point of the Steelers, I get a number two linebacker, but part of it has been too because of the quality of the personnel. And I think that, like you had a run stopper like Elandon Roberts kind of
Yeah,
thing who wasn't good, or a Mark Robinson type, or who just wasn't good in pass coverage. So they were alternating him. Peyton Wilson to me has the opportunity to do both the run stopping, and he demonstrated clearly on the pass coverage side of last year. He's put on a little bit mass as well going into this year. So I had him in the opposite side of things. So very interesting. Okay, that's another Diet Coke / beer bet we're going to have on Peyton Wilson. All righty. So that wraps up our IDP news and notes for IDP Plus Advice, along with the AFC East and the AFC North for this week. Next week, to give you a quick preview, we are going to talk about the AFC South and the AFC West. So we'll wrap up the AFC next week. We'll begin with IDP news and notes. And once again, don't forget, put your questions onto the IDP Plus YouTube channel where this is being shown. We'll try and bring those questions into the IDP news and notes and cover those next week and give you our thoughts on them and what we're hearing. Sean, anything else you'd add related to today's show?
Nope, this has been a whole lot easier than the risers and fallers, or repeaters and non-repeaters. Go check that out because it hurt my head. Give us some thumbs up on that.
All right. So look, if you did like this show, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Our channel growth on the IDP Plus YouTube channel is continuing to spike up because of the great content that hopefully we're putting out, but a lot of our peers are as well. So come and subscribe to the channel for sure. If you have comments, questions, suggestions, like I said, put it on the YouTube channel. We'll try to respond to them all. Give me a follow at RickyRod66 or Sean at Sean8386 on X as well. As it gets closer to the season, you're going to see a lot more from me on X as a side note, okay? You can catch this replay. You know how to do it. So with that, we will see you in about a week or so. On behalf of Sean Teague and myself, Ricky Rodrigue, we wishing you, your family, your friends great health and happiness. Be kind to one another. And we will see you next time in about less than a week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.